You know what I've learned over the years of having my stoma and talking to friends about their stomas and even working as a nurse, taking care of people that have stomas? Everyone does things a little bit differently. There are about a million different ways that you can pouch a stoma, especially with all of the products available out there, and what works for one person may not work for another. It can be really difficult to find that routine, one that you're familiar enough with and one that you are confident doing, performing with a caregiver or by yourself. When I first got my stoma, it was just me and my dad, and we very quickly found that some of the things taught to us in the hospital really were not effective for me. And one of those was taking a little cotton ball, putting some lubricant on it, and sticking it to my stoma during changes so it wouldn't have output. And very soon we realized that the force of my output could not be stopped by a cotton ball. We actually found it more effective if we took a paper towel, folded it over a couple of times to make it a little bit thicker, and wrapped it around my stoma and had some backup just in case I did have output. We could switch that paper towel out quickly. That was just one example of how we learned our own way. We kind of learned by trial and error and found something that worked for me. We did find our way, and it looked a little bit different from what they taught us in the hospital. But the thing about stoma care is that is absolutely okay. Ostomy care is a bit of an art, and I don't think it's always presented that way to patients in the hospital. But I know that feeling of doing everything the exact way you were told and not having good results, having leaks upon leaks, sitting in the bathtub waiting for my stoma to slow down because I need to change my appliance. It's miserable. Here at StomaCloak, we want to support the person who is finding their way with their stoma care, whether they don't have a stoma yet and they're facing surgery, they're fresh out of surgery, or they are a seasoned pro. And that's why today I thought I would share my current ostomy routine, even though it changes depending on what I need at the moment. I thought I would share that with you, and I hope you'll share your routine with me in the comments. I think my biggest concern when I just got out of surgery with my ostomy was everyone's gonna know that I have an ostomy bag, and as you can see, that is just absolutely not the case. When my ostomy bag is fairly empty, you can't see it at all. Even when it fills up, I realized no one's looking at your belly, so I just don't worry about it anymore. With most ostomy changes for me, I usually prefer a two-piece. This just means that the ostomy pouch and the base plate that sticks around your stoma are two separate entities, and this helps me to burp the ostomy bag. If you have a little gas buildup, you can kind of detach the top of it. It also helps if I want to change out the bag to something different but not have to do a complete ostomy bag change. And you'll see in a little bit that this is how I actually empty my ostomy bag. You'll notice something a little unusual about my routine. This particular appliance, I have to cut the opening to fit my stoma, and at first this was really difficult for me because my stoma was still adjusting its size and its shape, but over time it got fairly consistent and I can just look at it and know what I need to cut. If you're having trouble with this, a tip that I learned was to save the backing from a particularly good ostomy bag change, one where you had really good wear time. That can act as a template for future changes. You'll then see me pull out a barrier ring. Not everybody uses one. Some people prefer paste, some people don't use anything at all to kind of add a caulking right around their stoma. I have in recent years really preferred a barrier ring. I used to exclusively use paste. I loved it. I felt like it stuck really well around my ostomy and really provided a good seal so no output could leak underneath of the flange. But I actually found that the paste broke down a little too quickly, and that would leave the rough edge of my flange rubbing up against the junction of my skin and my stoma. And that led to something called granulomas, which were these little painful bumps right around my stoma, and they would get worse when there was something rubbing up against it, like any sort of pressure. I found by switching to rings over the paste, I really had an improvement with them and had a lot less pain, so that's why I chose the rings. Some people like to place the rings or the paste directly on their skin. I just always have found it simpler to put it right on the flange. I think it's a little easier when placing it on, so that's what you'll see me do here. Then I usually take some sort of paper towel or toilet paper and tuck it into my pants or whatever I'm wearing just to protect it, because I'm pretty good at timing my ostomy changes now. I know when it's active and when it's a little bit more quiet, but every now and then my stoma likes to surprise me, so this is my backup plan. Then I'll typically use some sort of little baggie to tuck the end of the ostomy pouch in, so when I pull it off, it just goes directly into the bag and it can be thrown in the trash. I love adhesive remover spray made for ostomy care specifically, but unfortunately I ran out, so you're going to see me pull off my ostomy pouch. You might see me flinch here because I have an incision under my pant line that has caused the area under my stoma and my lower belly to be sort of numb and tender at the same time, so when I pull stuff off of it, it feels really weird to me. That's why you see me flinch. It's not because it's hurting exactly, it just feels very odd. For the most part, I don't experience any pain when it comes to removing my ostomy pouch. I just make sure to do it very slowly and gently. I do a lot of my heavy cleaning around my ostomy or my stoma with a paper towel or toilet paper. This is getting any big pieces of debris. Usually that includes bits of the barrier ring. They come off pretty easy, but I'll use the paper towel to get most of what's going on around my stoma off. And then I'll do the fine tuning, the fine cleaning with an adhesive remover wipe. This really gets any adhesive or residue off of your skin. That's why I love it so much, and it keeps it painless. That's why I also love it. Really gets the skin clean though. Sometimes I'll even open up a second one if I really want to get a good job going there. But I think if I could recommend anything to any new patient, get your skin as absolutely clean as possible. I know that it can sometimes be painful immediately after surgery. The area tends to be raw, your skin might have some irritation, but definitely getting the skin as clean as possible is very helpful for getting the next appliance to adhere well. Then I go in with the skin barrier spray. This is the easiest version of a skin barrier to me. It also comes in wipes, it comes in little lollipop foam applicators, but I typically like the spray. I feel like it provides the thinnest layer, but the most, the most even coverage. And I also like using it when I have to use stoma powder if I'm experiencing any breakdown. At this point, I wasn't, so all I needed was that skin barrier spray. And I really find that it leaves my skin just a little bit more tacky than it would have been, by itself, and it helps the flange adhere a little bit better. Also provides a light layer of protection should anything leak under that flange. Not everybody likes to use this. It's just something that I was taught very early on and found, it did seem to help a little bit, so I have stuck with it. Then I have to wait for my skin to completely dry. That's how I get my flange to stick on well. And this is always the point at which, if my stoma is gonna start talking, it's now. It's when my skin is all prepared and clean and fresh. That's when I start to feel it. And some people can feel it, some people can't. I sometimes notice a little bit of pressure on the skin around my stoma when I'm about to have output. So I felt that here, grabbed a paper towel, wrapped it around my stoma, and waited. And thankfully nothing happened. I typically try to aim my changes for when I know my stoma is going to be least active. That's gonna look different for everybody. I know that sometimes when I change my ostomy bag online, I make it look easy, and it's not always like that. Sometimes I need to do changes when it's an inconvenient time, but I personally find that if I wait about an hour or a little bit more after I've eaten, my stoma's had time to, pick up, digest a little bit, and then it slows down. If I'm hungry or I just ate, that's when it's really active. Or if I've had coffee. Once everything is all dry, I can finally place my flange on, and you'll notice once I put it on over the stoma, I take 2 fingers on each side and I try to press down around my stoma. Some people will warm up their flange prior to placing it. Some people will get a heating pad afterwards, but it's getting warm out now, and usually my body heat is enough to warm it up a bit. Really helps it adhere better if there is some sort of heat, but in the summer, I don't need any additional heat. Then I snap on the ostomy bag, and you might notice something a little unusual, particularly for somebody who has an ileostomy and has to empty 5 to 7 times a day. There's no way to empty. This bag is a non-drainable bag. It's typically used with people with colostomies. Now, I had one too many incidences with a clip closure early on, and I found with Velcro closures that I couldn't get them as clean as I wanted, and I didn't like the bulge underneath of my clothing. I also didn't like how long those bags wound up being. I'm shorter, I'm petite, and those bags would go halfway down my leg. So for the heck of it, I tried a non-drainable, and I found my own method of emptying through the ring. I know it's unusual, but these are the sorts of things that as patients living with stomas for a while, you find, methods or products that you really like that work well for you. Might not be the best method for everybody, but I know this is something that works really well for me. Now, I have had issues with the particular appliance I'm using right now. I noticed that I get some leaks around the ring where the ring attaches to the flange. And so this is when the StomaCloak comes in really handy. If I'm wearing this ostomy pouch, this particular brand, I am almost always wearing a StomaCloak because it helps protect my skin, it helps protect from anything that's leaking out, and it also protects against any odor that comes from that. More often than not, I'm wearing a different brand. It's actually the one that I pulled off in the beginning of this video, but I have a few extras of these and we're just using up stock. That is my routine as of late, and I will switch things up based on my needs. But our methods and the products we use probably look a little bit different from each other's. We find different methods or products that make us feel confident to leave the house with our stomas, but I want to be very clear that this takes time. If you find yourself leaving the house worried about the integrity of your appliance and whether it's adhering to you well, I highly recommend picking up a StomaCloak and keeping it with you, whether you wear it or you keep it in a purse. It's something that acts as a backup for me, so if I'm not wearing it, it is in my purse. I'm carrying it with me just in case, because you never know. Sometimes bags have faulty mechanisms. Maybe they don't click right. Maybe you didn't click it on perfectly. And it's really nice to have a StomaCloak should you experience that and you can't get to the bathroom right away. Put on a StomaCloak, protect your skin, protect your clothing, keep the odor at bay, protect your skin from any moisture. It covers you. It gives you that insurance that you'll be okay. You can check them out at StomaCloak.com. Now, thank you so much for watching my routine. I would love to hear what you do for your ostomy change routine. I can't wait to hear about it in the comments below. Thank you in advance, and we will see you soon.